Welcome. It's time for No Brush Required, episode 78. Haven't seen you guys in a long time. Let's grab Barb and catch up. Happy New Year. Who's with us? Hi, Mark. Hi, Eve. Happy New Year, everybody. Hello, Melody. Hello, Barbara.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year. How are you?
Oh, trying hard not to be gloomy. It's been just so miserable out.
Yes.
Like just awful, awful. Raining and how about at your end? How's life?
Oh, same here. I'm finding that every year it seems to take longer and longer to come back from Christmas and holidays.
I know. And is today the 9th?
I don't know. I think
Is it January
so.
9th? I hate to tell you, we still have our Christmas stuff up.
Oh,
I don't know if you can see the tree back there. God. And that's actually, I said to Roman, tomorrow it's going. Yes. It has to go. Yeah.
I started referring to pretty much every day as Blur's Day. Like I didn't know what day of the week it was. I didn't know what the date was. Hi, Fee.
It is. I like that. It's Blur's Day.
Blur's Day.
It's so Blur's Day. It's so Blur's Day. Yeah. One day just blurs into the next.
Thing is, you're not having to go back to teach classes. I mean, I did. I started teaching again this week. 7:15 classes were a little rough yesterday and today. But
I hear you. I mean, I don't teach a class at that hour, but I take a class at that hour. And even taking a class, it's all I can do. Follow instructions. Don't bump into anybody. Don't trip over a dumbbell, and you'll be fine.
My participants were all having the same thought, and everybody was talking about how sluggish they felt because of all of the Lindt chocolates that they ate over the holidays.
I might have one or two in our cupboard there, maybe.
Okay, I think ours are gone, which is a bad thing and a good thing.
Get it out of your system. Get it out of your system.
Well, let's grab today's guests. I think I saw her waiting. Those of you who saw our poster, we have Julia Veenstra with us today, and I think probably many of you will know her as an artist and a supporter of artists, and maybe you know her through the Square Foot Show. There's so much to talk about. Let's grab her. Let's get her on here. Here she is.
And she's not too far from me. I think she's Hamilton.
I think so.
Or just down the beach strip.
Oh,
hello,
here she comes. Julia, welcome.
Can you hear me okay? I'm using my earpods for the first time.
We can. Yes, absolutely.
Perfect.
It's so nice to meet you. I mean, I feel like I know you because I've interacted with you so much online, following posts, commenting, sharing, and just watching your artwork. But this is the first time we've ever had a chance to chat. So this is great.
It is so nice to meet you too.
Yeah.
And
yes. And you're practically a neighbor, Julia. I think you just live down the beach strip, but on the Hamilton side. And I'm not too far from Spencer Smith Park, so
that's an amazing area. I love that area.
Yeah, me too.
Of Burlington.
Me too.
Have you lived in Hamilton for long? Is it a whole life thing, or you've lived other places?
I was born in Hamilton and raised kind of all over Hamilton, but we were away. How many years? Probably 15 years. We lived in New York. We lived in Virginia. We lived in Tanzania and Kenya. And then we returned to Canada. And then we came right back to Hamilton.
Okay, so I got to ask about this because you named a whole pile of places, which are fabulous places. First of all, what took you to those different areas? I mean, New York and then Africa.
Well, in New York, we were in a small town called Lima, New York, which was outside of Rochester. Mm-hmm. My husband was getting a college education. He decided to go back to college at 32.
Yep.
And he got his lost. Can you still hear me? Yeah. He got his master's in biblical studies. So we always tease. He's like Jesus started his thing at 32. And then that took us to Virginia Beach, where he got his master's. So he got his undergraduate in New York, and then we went down to Virginia Beach. Spent 3 years there. That was marvelous. Then we came back to Canada, and then we decided to take some of that master's degree and go to Tanzania, where we helped with ministry there. And then we moved to Kenya to be with our kids at a boarding school. So we were dorm parents to 22 11th and 12th grade boys. And I taught art there. My husband taught history. And then we came home and started my art career back again in Hamilton.
So Hamilton is home.
Hamilton is home.
Hamilton.
All the families.
So, but let's back up. So, you were an artist the whole time you were traveling around the world. What's your background? Do you come out of a background in art?
Yeah, so I was one of those little kids that was always, did you know she could draw? Like my mom would always hear, did you know she could draw? And I won all the awards once you got to a grade when you started winning those awards. And then I went to Sheridan College for illustration with 300 other kids who won all the awards.
Yeah.
Right? So it becomes a
very
different ball game. I mean, I did all right. I wasn't the most, I don't think I was the best student. I learned a lot. And then I went and worked for a publishing company for my placement. And then I worked there. And it turns out I am a great entrepreneur, but a terrible employee. I hated it. I hated going in for 9 o'clock. I hated staying till 5. I hated everything about it. And I have to say, I was only about 19, 20. My work ethic probably wasn't the best either. So I'd call in sick if I didn't feel like coming in. And I appalled my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law was like, oh my goodness, if you're not sick, you need to go to work. And I'm like, now I would say exactly the same thing.
Right. It's interesting though. I feel like an entrepreneurial spirit is something that you're born with. So certain people, they just don't like to take instruction from other people in a job setting because they have their own way of working, and sometimes they think they probably can do a better job if they do it their way.
It doesn't make sense, or it doesn't make sense. You look at it, it's like, how can you want me to do it that way? That's not
well, and I must have wanted to be the boss because then I had 5 kids, right? So I could boss them around for a while, but now I can't boss them around either. So, that is how it began. And I painted and drew while my kids were little, only when I had a job, because I certainly didn't have time to practice. Like I didn't have studio time. I didn't do any of that. And I was exhausted at nighttime, right? Like there's no going to the studio till 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm a 9 o'clock start. I work hard all day, and I have dreams that I'm going to like refinish the bedroom or something at night, and then it hits 6 o'clock and I'm done.
Yeah. Can relate.
Yeah. So I only painted and drew when I had a job, when it created income.
Okay.
And then when my daughter Abby went to kindergarten, I did start to work on the kitchen table, and I developed a line of, at the time, I don't know how old any of you are, but at the time it was like, do you remember folk art and shabby chic furniture and all that stuff? I did all that. Like I would collect furniture and I would redo it. And I worked on home decor things on canvas, and I kind of built a little career like that. And just as I was getting a little bit popular in my area, that's when Doug wanted to go to Africa. So we went there. But I did have a little more time in Africa because 3 of my kids went to boarding school, and I homeschooled the 2 youngest for 3 years. So I did have afternoons to work. So I actually did at that point start a studio space, and I painted African scenes and the market scenes, and I was purely figurative for my first part of my career. All I ever did was figurative.
Really?
Landscape, to me, I was like, landscapes are boring.
Well, maybe that was your illustration background. It's probably a lot of figure drawing in school.
Yeah, a lot of figure drawing, all of that. And so then when I came back, I mistakenly thought, well, maybe my African work would go over
Mm-hmm.
in Canada. But I don't think people really wanted African work done by white
Right.
ladies, right?
Right.
So it didn't really take off. So, and I remember the first tree that I did kind of in my style, and when somebody snatched it up and then somebody wanted a bigger one, I was like, I might be onto something here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when did you make the leap from, I mean, it sounds like you've been, even when your kids were really young and you were only working a small amount of time at home, you were still thinking as a business person, not just as an artist. And so that's something you kind of cultivated, those two parts of your career at the same time as you've moved on, the art and the business have come together.
Yes, and like if you followed me at all, you know that I talk a lot about in the business of art, like having grocery
Mm-hmm.
money paintings. Well, it was literally grocery money that we needed. So you worked and you did jobs to earn grocery money, but I also had a commitment to these 5 kids, and daycare wasn't part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to figure out how to make the grocery money and be at home and be available at 3 o'clock. So 3 o'clock, all the stuff would come off the table. I'd start making snack, and home everybody came from school, and that was the way. But yeah, I think that entrepreneurial part of me said I can do better. Probably that it probably was $8 an hour minimum wage or something. I can do better than that all day by making some things.
How did you kind of spread the word when you were back here that you were painting and starting to do this sort of thing? I'm not in your own timeline. I'm not sure. Was this pre-social media or like
when
Instagram was a thing?
When I came back from Africa? Okay. So you're right. That's a good thing to think about is how I,
Yeah. How'd you do it?
So, okay. I came home. I remember working on my dining room table, but I did all those little tent shows.
Okay.
So I started doing all those little tent shows, and the first tent show that I did that was, I think this was the pivotal moment. I had a painting there, and there was a lady that wanted the painting, and she sent her husband, who was a lawyer, to come and look at the painting. I was in Carlisle at an outdoor show, and he came down and he bought the painting for his wife, but he also said, hey, we're renovating a building on James Street in Hamilton, and would you like to come down and see it? And at the time I'm like, why would I take a studio when I'm working for free, right? Like, why would I pay rent? And he said, well, why don't you come down for the art crawl and set up some stuff for free? And he was very smart. And why don't you set up some stuff for free and see how you like it? And I had been hearing about the James Street art crawl, and I had never been to it. So I was like, okay, because that had kind of started to be established when we were still in Africa. So I thought, okay, I'll come down and I'll do that. And if anything, I'm going to meet his partners that are more lawyers, and maybe they'll want a painting, right? Like, so you always think, maybe I'll upsell.
Yep.
Anyway, the art crawl created enough income that night. Oh, here we go again. Apparently I have weird ears.
I can't wear them when I'm in the bathroom because I have a terrible fear of dropping them in the toilet.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I dropped it in the lake once, and they still work, so they are pretty good. Where was I? I made
art crawl.
I made enough on that art crawl with small paintings that I could pay rent, right? Like what they were asking. And then there was just part of me, and I think this is what I also teach when I'm take the opportunity. Yeah. If you think it's going to work out and the math seems to work, like, take the opportunity. So by that point, actually, we could backtrack a little bit. We had no money when we came back from Africa, and I started spending money on paint supplies and different, and my husband was like, how much did you spend at the art store? And then the first show, then I sold enough to pay off the bill for the, and he's like, oh, okay. So you can now spend $500 and you will sell enough to cover. Okay. Right. In his mind, like the math was working. So, but by the time we got to where I said, I want to take the studio. Do you think that, we could do it? And he's like, I think if you think you can, you've proven that you can. So I said, okay, I'm going to do it. And it was fantastic because it changed. Like when you're working at home, you do laundry or you bake cookies or you do clean something to avoid working sometimes.
I don't. Ask my husband.
My husband's retired, and I asked him to go room by room today and tidy up. He does. I don't know if he knows what that means. So, if he's watching, sorry, honey. But
having that space and that
taking the space. Yeah. Oh my gosh! Can you still hear me with one ring?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Okay. I took the space, and it was wonderful. And there was a coffee shop down below, and I'd go down for a coffee. And then every month, people would come through my space for the art crawl. And then Super Crawl would be once a year where 100,000 people would show up. And that really launched my career. I got a lot of clientele who were buying art on those Fridays. I had a couple of galleries find me. So the first thing is that I took the opportunity to do something scary. And then it landed me in a community that was a little more artsy. And that community was drawing the right clientele.
Right. Yeah. And those things are so important. And the other thing is oftentimes we're afraid to spend, not just to take a big step, but it's hard to justify spending money if you don't know. I mean, you had confidence and you had some history to back up the idea that it was going to pay off, but we don't always know that, right?
We don't, but then there's the business part of me, like how many grocery money paintings do you have to sell and how are you going to sell them? So where are you going to go to make sure that people see them? And this is not going to wish. I hope I sell some 12 by 12,
Yeah, no, you've got to get them out there, and it sounds like the opportunity was just perfect. Great timing, and
it was.
The stars aligned.
Yeah, and my husband's a contractor. My husband's a contractor, and one of the lawyers happened to be interested in developing more properties. So we actually partnered with them after 5 years of being in that space and getting some success. And my husband had reestablished his business, coming home from Africa. We had a lawyer ask us if we wanted to go in on a building, and we said, okay, even though that was really scary. And so we would put some money in, and I would work like crazy to pay that line of credit off. And then we'd put some more money in and work like crazy. So it was just this rolling. But all of this is to answer your question about how did I get it out there and when did I start social media? I remember signing up for Instagram, and that would have been
2008.
Okay, so that was 2008 for you?
I think so, or 2010. I started right away. I was right in there when it came on.
So I've lived in my present house for 6 years, and I owned the last house for 6 years. So that's 2012. So for me, it would have been 2011.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm thinking 2010 might have been when it started.
Yeah. And I remember signing up, and then I had like 250 followers and being thrilled, and then learning all about, and it turns out that I just liked social media.
Yeah.
When you can tell, you can tell that it comes across in your posts and the way you interact with your followers. So
yeah.
You had a bricks and mortar space in Hamilton, did you not?
So that's the next story. Okay. That's the next story. When my husband and I were invited by the lawyer to build a building, to buy a building, I said, as long as I get the main space on the main floor. So we bought 2 buildings that are kind of connected, which two residential apartments and 2 storefronts. and I took one, and I was there for almost 10 years. And that just, solidified. Sometimes having a space like that makes people think you're more important than you are, right? Or you must be better, or you must be, and sometimes that illusion is good to.
Yeah. Well, it's credibility. It's credibility that you've got this gallery space. And I remember seeing photos of it. I never actually was in it, but I remember seeing you post. I think it was beautiful. Like it looked.
Rhonda just said it was beautiful. So thanks, Rhonda. Hi, Rhonda.
Oh. But also, having that space, you step up. It's like, going from working at home to you're out there now. So you have this image, and it just feeds back into how confident you feel about your own abilities and how you elevate your own status.
Well, it was a storefront, and I did feel a little bit committed to the street because James Street was really being lifted up at the time, and people were starting to renovate buildings, and the stores were, different people were opening shops. So I felt a little bit of a commitment to the community, but I also remember I don't like being bossed around, and I didn't even like being bossed around by hours.
I would say, how did you cope with that? Because
I had a sign on the door that said appointment available by appointment or chance.
I like that.
So if they found me there, they found me there. But I worked a lot. I worked hard, and I worked probably 5 days a week, and I would get there by 9, and I would leave. I always used to laugh. The CBC, I listen to CBC a lot, and their 3:00 traffic report, even though I live 10 minutes away, would always trigger me. Like I'd be like, oh, it's time to go. They're starting the traffic report. And so it's funny, the little habits and rituals that we get into. So that was wonderful. And 10 years there.
So you painted, that was both studio and storefront space.
Yes. So I had to kind of keep it looking nice, but there were times where people come in and just be like a bomb, right? Yeah.
That's great. And so at that point, so that was when did you leave that space? Because I know there's 2 more parts of the story we want to hear about for sure. What did you do after that? Where did you head to?
So COVID hit.
So the dread COVID.
So as time went by, I did hire an assistant, and I don't know if Liz is on. She might be on, but Liz initially volunteered to work for me at One of a Kind, a big show in Toronto, for a painting because she liked my work. So we did it. We did the trade. She's a very competent lady, and we did the trade, and I needed the extra help. And then I realized, oh man, on Saturdays, it would be great to have somebody in the studio. Like the street is busy. And so Liz started coming from 10 to 4. And as much as I probably seem to be an extrovert, I am not an extrovert. I like most artists, I like to be alone, and I like to paint and with my thoughts. So I would schedule a lot of pickups and different things for Saturday when Liz was there. So Liz was an extrovert, and she just loved doing it. And she would clean my studio. She would fluff my pillows. She would do all sorts of things, but she was great with the customers. And then when COVID hit, the first Saturday she was due to work, she was also used to be a health professional. So she took that all very, very seriously. She's like, I don't think I'm comfortable. I'm a little scared, right? And I went, I get it. So we shut down that Saturday. You remember, it was only supposed to be 2 weeks, right?
I know.
So we shut down that Saturday, and then we shut down the next Saturday, and then we just stayed shut. And I decided okay, for the 2 weeks, I'll just go and work from home. So I took all my paint, I took canvas, and I took an easel, and I thought, well, this will be a nice little change of pace, because I lived at the beach, and I thought this will be neat to be home. And I worked in my kitchen, and then eventually I worked in my living room, and then eventually I worked in a spare room, and then eventually I worked in the garage. And then my son-in-law actually renovated the studio that I'm in now. And about 2.5 years ago, I moved into it. And Cameron, the hair salon who rented from me the other storefront, we bashed a hole in the wall and he took over
So the
my
whole
space.
Great.
Yeah. So it worked out well
Yeah.
for him. And I had a 5-year plan because James Street and the art crawl had done for me what it needed. So there's another tip, like recognize where you are when it's time to move on. It's not ever a failure to leave one place. In fact, it can be, just kind of a different adventure. So I was leaving a retail space and went home. And that's a whole nother story, and we'll get to that a little bit later. I'm not sure what's next in your questions.
Oh, we never know either. But we like to go where the conversation leads.
Well, I want to know then, so when did the square foot show start?
Okay.
Because
that's a fun story. So the square foot show, as artists, we've all been in them, right? You've all been in little shows. The first square foot show I did was in it was on Ossington, and the art gallery started with an O. For the life of me, I can't remember. So, but I paid $15 a square foot painting to enter into that show. And that show wasn't juried, and anybody could enter, even, people entered their children's paintings and everything. It was very fun. And then, but I remember going with a friend to see the show because it was one of my very first shows like that. And I had red dots on all my pieces. So I was like, oh, I guess they sold all of them. I guess people liked my work. And that was pretty neat because that was James Street people that knew who I was at that point. So to put my work in a place and have it recognized and purchased just on its merit was pretty nice. Right. So then I was also in Paula White Diamond's square foot show. She has a very popular show. She has one that people would line up out on the sidewalk.
Right.
So I was very excited about that. And again, I always sold great at Paula's. So I decided, okay, I'm just going to springboard from this, and I have this studio space, so I'll do a small square foot show for myself. So I painted about 40 paintings. Took me all year.
Yeah.
And I put them up and I was so excited, and I thought, I had some ego. I had been doing okay on Instagram and things like, I'm going to put this up and people are going to rush in and buy all these paintings. And at 7:00, I unlocked the door. Well, nobody was there. And so that was interesting. But by 8:30, I was sold out. So people did come.
Okay.
They didn't come right at 7:00.
They didn't come right at 7:00.
So, yeah, they didn't come right at 7:00. But the next year, I decided, well, I can't make it any bigger. These are sale paintings. I can't make it. This is not a model. I can't make 100 paintings. It's going to take up too much time and not make me enough money. So I thought, okay, well, I'll do what other galleries do, even though I wasn't a gallery, it was a studio. Let me curate in some of my favorite artists. So I did. And again, though, people then started showing up at 7:00 because the next year they realized that they had missed out the year before, so they wanted to come right away. And then I had other artists, and I really took a lot of pride in who I invited. Like I invited only artists that I thought were really great. And then it started growing, and because I was loving social media, I would take pictures and I've got this going on, are you going to come? And people from across the country started saying, well, how can I buy? And I had no idea at the time how to make my website wasn't e-commerce necessarily, and it just wasn't there. So then I decided to, what I would do is consolidate all the pictures after opening night on a wall and then take a picture, and people would literally screenshot it, circle the one
Yeah.
they want, e-transfer me back some money and shipping, and I'd mail it to them. Wasn't very high tech. However, I had started working with Elias from Rock Firm, a marketing company, because I had felt like that. Again, this is all the tips. When you feel like you need to do something, figure out, and if you can afford to do it, So I took a risk and I hired my nephew Elias, who was a Juno Award-winning songwriter living in Nashville, but ran a marketing firm. So he turned my website into e-commerce. I started doing more print line, et cetera, et cetera. But then when COVID hit, I said, Eli, I mean, my square foot show made me quite a bit of money for, that time of year. And I said, I need to, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So we said, well, why don't we take it online? And we developed the model where the artist just sent me images. They did not send me their paintings.
Yes.
They just sent me their images, and Elias put it all up in a gallery that would launch at 8:00 on a Thursday night this day. Well, we were all excited about it, and I said to him, there might be 100 people shopping. And we had over 2,000 hits in the first 5 minutes.
Did it crash the site?
It crashed the site. It took us about 10 minutes to get it back up. And we ended up selling how many duplicates? 20 something duplicates, because the site that we had wasn't fast enough to see which person got it in the first second. Right?
No.
So what do you do?
Well, I was so excited, and you can check your stats and you can see how much money, and I'm like, these many paintings are sold, because you could also, I would count and how many are left. I knew how many and then I was laying in bed, I'm going, there's too much money.
We sold more paintings than we have.
Yeah, this is a problem. So the next morning we found out only one person wanted their money back because they didn't get the original. All the other people were thrilled to work with the artists, and the artists were thrilled to have that many customers. And like Julie DeBoer from Alberta, she sold 5 of the same painting. And Julie, I think Burke, it was, she sold 7 of the same paint. Like, it was crazy.
So did they?
But
did they end up making new work for those?
They just made new work for all the clients, and the clients were really happy to wait, and it was wonderful. And then the next time we did it, we also crashed, and but we then quickly built, because Elias is a professional and he didn't like crashing. He doesn't even like me talking about the fact that we crashed. But he eventually said, we're going to have to use Shopify, because we're getting 2,000 to 3,000 shoppers for each show. And it started what do you call it? It started we call it the Black Friday of art sales, because we haven't lost the momentum.
Right.
People buy in that first hour and a half. When we go live, that is when we do most of our sales. Now, we do great sales on, the next 2 days, and most artists, all sell either all of their work or one at least pieces. So it's a very successful show, and it's grown. And what I'm thrilled about is that the community of artists that we know now, and the list of applications that we have from around the world. And as we're growing, we now do, I think, 6 square foot shows a year. And we're experimenting with different themes. We're introducing different artists. We're finding different areas. So like we had one in Texas where she was our headliner. So we really focused, and this is, again, your marketing. We focused all our advertising on the West and in Texas. Right. So when we were choosing who our Facebook ads would hit, it wasn't Ontario for the, for the Western fame.
Right.
So we've tried to, we try to do strategic marketing. And what's neat about it is you'd think, oh my gosh, 6 square foot shows a year. How do you have so many people to buy? We have 70% new purchasers each time almost. So
Wow.
it's new people coming to the table. Because we're introducing new artists, and each of you have your own fan club. So your fan club is coming over to see what you're doing. And they all want a sale, and it is a sale. And I've had that that has been an issue for some artists that sell their work for $500 or $600. They don't always want to do it. But the ones that have participated, like my square foots are $600. So to sell them now, we're at $350. To sell them for $350 is the sale.
Yes.
And I may have shot myself in the foot, and I'll never sell a square foot show at full retail again, but I do.
I doubt it.
I do, but the amount of followers that I get and the amount of new clients I get every time is worth it. And I have never been one for doing something for the exposure, but we do actually give people exposure. We have many artists that are in galleries because the galleries found them on Square Foot Show. We've got many artists that have left their careers to go into art because of Square Foot Show and what it did for them. So it's been an exciting journey to develop. If you had said to me that night, I was in Lethbridge that night when the first show happened. I was visiting my son, and we were out for dinner, and all of a sudden my phone started ringing. Like, I wanted a piece. It was in my card, and I can't buy it. I'm like, oh my word. Like, if I had ever known. Yeah. So the next day after the show was so successful, the next day I was driving down through the mountains down to Kelowna, and I got a phone call from Elias who said, I bought squarefootshow.com. I booked Square Foot Show Instagram, Square Foot Show Facebook. He was like, I don't understand why no one has done this before, like those specific names. And that's so it was working with a good marketer.
Yes.
And building upon the reputation that I had built, throughout the years on Instagram, and being a support to other artists.
Yeah.
There's room. My big motto is there's room for everybody.
For sure.
Everybody has their fan club. I mean, you have to make a good painting.
Yeah.
You have to hone your skills. You have to develop and work. But I believe there's room. And like, if they buy from you, Tamara, it doesn't mean they're not going to buy from me, or somebody's not going to buy from me.
Yeah.
There's not
I hear you.
Infinite amount of art money out there.
Although it seems like there's less last year than there was the year before, but that's a whole other
it's another topic.
It is another topic, but it is a little bit true, but it's fascinating. But that goes hand in hand with, how the economy is doing right now, and the fear.
Yes.
It's fear-based. Can I just back up for a second? Because there was a question, and this is an opportunity for any of the artists on here who don't know how to access Square Foot Show. One of our friends, Diana, asked, how does an artist get to participate in the Square Foot Show? So is there a process that they need to go through, Julia?
Yes. When we are looking for new artists, on squarefootshow.com, they can go and apply to the shows that we have open for application.
Okay.
And when they apply, with their name and everything, and with an image or two of what represents them. So here's a tip on Square Foot Show. Don't send me your very best stuff and then paint a whole new thing because you want to try it for Square Foot Show. Yeah. And that's my advice, even when you're out there. In other shows, like, to surprise your collectors with something that they're not quite expecting might not make the most successful sale. It's great to experiment and everything, and use your Instagram, use your socials, have dialogues about the new work. But we've found that people sometimes will send us stuff that gets them in the show, and then they say, I'm going to try a whole new, genre, and then they don't sell anything, and then they feel terrible.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they can apply through squarefootshow.com.
Okay. I will add that to the
Other questions to pop up, Tamara. I wonder if people have a question for Julie.
Why don't we say, if anybody has a question, throw it in the question sticker box. So at the bottom of your screen, anyone who's curious, there's a little bubble with a question mark in it. If you hit that, then you can type your question in and it won't go flying up my screen, and I can see them and I can pull them up on the screen, and we could answer them once we get a couple questions pulled up there.
And to talk about Square Foot Show a little bit more,
yes,
I did have a lady that say, well, we have one upcoming, but I did have a lady come to me once and she said, I was in your Square Foot Show once, but I haven't been able to get in again. And I felt bad about that, because I'm like, I understand you'd want to be in again. We have many applications. We have 50 spots a show, and we have 200 or 300, sometimes 400 applications. So, and we do blind curation at this point. So we have a team, and we vote, and
can't hear you now.
Uh-oh.
Can you hear me?
Earbud issue.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
You're a bit delayed. You're a bit delayed.
Oh dear. Okay, let me try.
I think it's all the rain out there that's killing.
I think I've got it.
Yes, you got it.
Okay.
All right. So she was sad, and to be completely honest, she said, "Well, it seems like maybe you're only picking the really professionals to be in the show." And I felt for her about that too, because we want to lift up all sorts of new artists. But I did tell her we are blind curating, and I did remind her, and this might be a harsh reality, that it's a business for everybody, right? And so that sometimes is a harder aspect of our careers, isn't it? Because we want to lift everybody up, but we also need those groceries.
Yeah,
you know, everybody does.
And everything we paint isn't a masterpiece.
It's true. It's true. So we're trying with Square Foot Show to introduce new collectors to new artists all the time. And the neat thing is that we're not a gallery, Square Foot Show. We once, like, if you have 5 paintings in and you sell out, and somebody says, "Oh my gosh, I missed her pieces," we say, "Well, here's her email." Go right to her. And many artists have stories of that they've sold so much more after Square Foot Show, and bigger pieces. So we have a Square Foot Show coming up with Debbie and Brian Miller from the States as our headliners, and it's called Still, and it's a still life show, and it's our first time to try a complete still life show. So we're really excited about it. It's January 25th, and that's a Thursday night, 8 Eastern Standard Time, and I go live about half an hour early. And that was the going live, again, adapting to what you're thrown. The going live was because we crashed, and I went on to make, "Oh my gosh, guys, you're just breaking my internet, and this is wonderful. Thank you. Honestly, we're trying to fix." And it turned into a little wine tasting with the artist. Yeah. So now that's part of the fun.
I think that's great.
I'm watching the time. I want to make sure we cover all the really juicy topics. So segue into Crown and Press. So and how did that all come about? So
Crown and Press, real quickly, because I opened my gallery my studio at my home, and I told you that I'm an introvert, which people would say, "Can we come to your house to pick up a pillow or a notebook or a greeting card?" I'm like, "Really? You want to come with 2? I have to put my makeup on. I'm going to have to, and then I have to wait, instead of just bopping around. Again, somebody's bossing my time around." And so then my son-in-law and my daughter lived in our basement during COVID in an apartment we have there, and we were having dinner, and he said, he had a job that was paid well, but he didn't really love it. But he had an art and history degree. And he said, I'd really like to work in a gallery. And my husband is a contractor. And my daughter said, oh, we should put a coffee, well, you could put a coffee shop in it, because she was a Starbucks manager. And we went to my printer, Dawn, 905 Print, who's right next door to us at the gallery. And I said, if I buy a building, would you be our tenant? Because I was like trying to figure out how to pay for it beforehand. And he said, no, I don't want to be your tenant. I want to be your partner. So he bought the building with us. It cost us 3 times what we thought it was going to be, but it is stunning. It is, we have 5,000 square feet. We represent now 30 artists, and those 30 artists were curated from the Square Foot Show.
That's incredible.
Right? Because I already had the foundation of who sells well, who people want, and it's all Canadians. And I put all my pillows and all my notebooks and all my cards there, and people can just go there, have a coffee, and pick up whatever they need. And Raquel Ross, she says it's an incredible space. She's going to be in May, I believe. She'll be flying in from Nova Scotia for her show. And she is one of the Square Foot artists. She was a dentist, and she is now a full-time artist. And she's in quite a few galleries.
I love it.
Yeah.
Great story.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to pull up a question that I had here that's interesting. Rena wants to know how you feel about marketing and pricing. That's an issue that comes up for us a lot. Like, is it something you enjoy? Does it make you wish that you were doing other things than having to think about the marketing and the pricing side of things? Or
well, pricing is something that you have to get to in your work. I mean, as you start selling quicker and quicker and quicker and can't keep stock, you need to increase your prices until you get to a place where you're selling well, you're happy. The big thing is if you're in a gallery, you're happy with half, right? You have to be happy with half. The marketing, honestly, I love it, but I find my style of marketing is organic and fun. Like, it's like, one day I was going to the One of a Kind show, and I was thinking about exhibitions. I was at Exhibition Place in Toronto, and I was thinking, oh, the World Exhibition. People used to come with their inventions and show. And I'm like, we're just a bunch of big show-offs. We like showing off our stuff. We're like, what? And I was even thinking, who bought the first piece of art, or who traded, food for the woven mat? And I'm like, we just put it out there, we show it off. And that's basically what I do. I'm a big show off and use free social media to maximize it, because people don't realize that if I put something out 3 times a day, you guys aren't seeing it 3 times a day. You might see one. I am not in everybody's feed 100% of the time and annoying them all.
That's a really hard lesson. We've talked with a number of people about that in the past, about the fear of marketing, and artists. Oftentimes we don't like to feel like we're selling, even though it makes no sense, because we are.
I know.
But we're selling something so lovely and tangible. We may think we're exchanging a product for money, but really they're buying something that touches their heart. When they buy your work, they're seeing something in it that connects on a level. Like, I've had customers who've waited years to buy my work, not just because they're saving, but because the right piece hasn't hit. But when it does, that's when they choose to invest, right?
Yeah. Somebody loved taking your workshops. Well, we didn't even talk about your workshops, Julia.
Workshops, Crown and Press now is, so let me talk a little bit about Crown and Press. It is a 5,000 square foot shop. It is beautiful. 14 feet ceilings. The building is Art Deco, so we designed the inside to reflect Art Deco. We're kind of a pink and sagey green theme with white walls in the gallery. We sell great coffee, and we are always full. The coffee shop is always full.
That's great.
And it works as a little bit of it's a trick, right? Because they'll sit and have coffee and then fall in love with a painting, and eventually, we move them over into that sale. But because the space is so wonderful, we're like, this can't just be a gallery and a cafe. So we rent it out. We've done baby showers. We've done all sorts of things. But we've got at least 4 workshops. The next one is February 25th with Lori Meebor. And that's going to be a fabulous show, course.
Workshop,
and then, yeah. So people can find our workshops at crownandpress.com. I'm doing one in August. And Lori is doing our first one, and I bought a bunch of paint, and Michael's is having a good sale right now on,
Yes.
on paint, just so you know.
Yeah.
Better than my Desserts Zone discount.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I know. When Michael's has their deals, you got to get in there. Same with canvases. I jumped on their 60% off before Christmas and stock.
Load up my van. They don't even know what's coming. It's like I will take the entire top row and
just put her in.
Sometimes I feel bad. I'm not leaving it for anybody else.
Rena, the website is crownandpress.com.
Yeah.
.com. Yeah. I will put out some details in the show notes because there's been so many great links and things that you've given us today. So this has been really exciting because I've got a bunch of take homes here, and the number one take home that's kind of sitting with me, resonating most with me right now is really when you're feeling the urge to take things to the next level or the next step, and that opportunity provides itself or is in front of you. Trying to squash down those fears and those little voices in the back of your head that say but, yeah. And say yes and figure out how to make it happen.
Yeah.
That's my big take home, Julia. That's what you've inspired me with today.
Figure it out. I said there goes that earbud again. I said to my daughter who bought a vacation and then her car broke and the vacation was not returnable. And she was devastated. I'm so stupid. I'm so dumb. And I shouldn't have done this. And I'm like, okay, you can pick up extra shifts at the restaurant you used to work for. And that restaurant's fancy. And she can make like $200-$300 a night in tips. I said, how many shifts do you need to pick up?
Yeah.
And she's like, just sigh a little bit. How many paintings do you need to sell? And then it's not just, so artists say that's easy. You say how many paintings do you need to sell, but how do you sell them? How do you close that sale? So there's things you need to learn. There's things like which one works for you. Shall I wrap it? Do you want to try it in your home? Doing the little shows. I had somebody come into my studio once and said, oh my goodness, you are just living the life. And I'm like, what do you mean? Well, it's so nice that you can just have this studio and paint. And I'm like, yeah, I'm paying a mortgage, so I've got to pay the this and the that. And one of them even implied that it's nice to have a husband that supports my life.
Wow.
And that was from another woman.
Yeah.
And I was like, excuse me, I think I paid for the building.
Yeah. And decades of figuring it out. It's not like you just woke up one morning and poof. This beautiful existence, right?
Yeah.
So it's a labor of love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, comment just went flying by. So
somebody doesn't think selling paintings, it's not easy. You do have to have, like if you're at a show, don't look at your phone. Look at people. Ask them which one's their favorite. Which if they could choose which one in your booth to take home, which one and why.
Yeah.
To create the dialogue, create the desire. And I even have a challenge that makes people really feel vulnerable online. Put something up and say first sold in the comments gets to buy it. And they're like, but what if nobody puts it up? Well, then you archive. Then you archive it. Take it down. If they don't sell it, if you don't sell it by the end of the day and you're embarrassed, archive it. But never delete a post. Archive it because you don't want to lose your stats.
Yes.
Good
Another tip.
Point.
Yeah,
for sure.
And again, you've been giving us like tons and tons of information. You also teach a course, do you not, on sort of the business side of?
Yes, I have a business of art course. It's less than $200, and it comes with a Facebook private club.
Yeah, so, like a group.
like it comes with a mentoring group. And I've got people in that group who have grown so much, like Lori Meebor is in that group. And she now teaches for Mastrius, which is something from the Alberta, Julie DeBoer. And Lori's in that group. Sometimes when I go to check in, see if anybody's, chatting anything up in the group, Lori's answered all the questions. And other people are doing it too. So we're building a cute little community over there. It's $197. It's available on my website. I talk about all things business. I'm not teaching you how to paint. It's all business related.
And nuts and bolts, the stuff that we just go, oh God, I just don't want to think about it. But it sounds like you've made it very simple and easy for us to understand.
It is. It's a lifetime membership. You can watch it over and over and over.
All right. I will add that too, because I think that's very helpful. And a lot of us need more support around that. And to be honest, there's so much advice out there on the internet about how to market, how to, do whatever, but a lot of it's not aimed at artists. And I feel like art is unique. Art is different than selling t-shirts or selling lawnmowers or anything else. There's so much more there's you in it, right?
Yeah. And that's it's the you. Like sometimes I look at these reels that people do and they're like, use this trending audio and this kind of thing. Some of them have great tips, like the one recently that I thought was wonderful. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
The one recently that I thought was handy was where they say read the caption.
Yes.
I actually thought that was pretty smart, because then people do have to stop and your video keeps looping while they're reading your long caption. I was like, oh, I can take that one and I can use it. But I think the biggest thing that's worked for me was being super honest and showing up without makeup. Like my Michael's reel yesterday or the day before, I had no makeup on. I'm like, well, here I am.
This is me.
We know about that, eh, Tamara?
We
never put makeup on for this, ever. No way.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think just be real and let people know when you have a struggle or, ask. Did you see that I'm trying abstract? Oh my gosh.
I did.
That's a whole nother conversation. I had to put that thing facing the wall in my house. It's making me feel completely vulnerable.
That's good though. We all need to feel vulnerable sometimes.
Yep.
That means you're pushing through on something, right? But I know exactly what you mean. There are pieces where it's like, I can't look at it. And like you almost feel ill or so anxious.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm watching the clock, Tamara. We don't want to lose this.
Okay.
We always get off by an hour because the rumor is, it's never happened to us, but if you go beyond an hour, they don't always save your lives.
I think it might be a rumor, but you'll have to just test it one time when it's not important.
It's always
important.
You don't want to lose it.
It's always important. Well, thank you, Julia, so much for being with us today. It's been a great conversation, and you just shared so many valuable things with us and our viewers. So I will link things up in the show notes if you're just coming in late and you missed the talk. You want to watch the replay.
Well, as many times as you want.
As many times.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. And it was wonderful. Bonnie says it was wonderful too. And it was really fun. I was looking forward to it all.
Great.
Thanks
so much. Have a great square foot show.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.